Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Quixotic topic. My name is Daquan, and today I'm joined by.
Hello, my name is Leah.
And today we'll be talking about art and the complexities that surround juniors and seniors. And so, Leah, when you came to me wanting to talk about this topic, what exactly did you have in mind pertaining to art?
Hmm. What did I even have in mind when it came to art? I guess really just a few reflections on taking my first art class, which was drawing here, not counting orchestras. Well, even though that's also been an interesting process, I guess.
Oh yeah, I think my first art class was back in the seventh grade. Actually, it was really archaic. Well, it wasn't archaic. It was just kind of weird in the sense that um, they tried to teach us art theory and art philosophy at the same time. And to a seventh grader, they don't really mesh because it's like, this is how you draw a flower. And then you put that right next to this is an interpretation on how flowers are supposed to work. So by here, of course, you mean the North Carolina School of Science and Math. How would you say your drawing experience there was?
Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, Miss Alter is an amazing teacher. Really, it's just been nice to get to learn a few new skills. Never really thought much about contour or gesture drawing or anything going along with that kind of stuff, so.
So, do you have a familiar like? What is your artistic background other than the drawing classes you took in the today? Well, not today, but recently in the 11th grade.
Well, before that, it was mostly just randomly drawing in free time, filling up sketchbooks and trying to just improve based off of that. I guess, well, that's pretty much so been it. I've improved a lot over the last few years, it seems like, because I've filled up about, say, two
Oh
sketchbooks
wow.
completely by now, and am working on two more at the same time at the current moment. So
What things do you normally sketch?
I guess it's ended up being a lot of different weird types of flowers, geometric patterns, and whatever comes to mind, honestly, by about, say, 2 a.m. is what's
Mm.
been a sketchbook. So
Yeah, I've heard people say that 2 a.m. is like the pinnacle of innovation. I know it doesn't really happen to me at least because I'm asleep or I'm like watching YouTube, but every now and then I'll get like a random idea, but I never really explore it. So it's interesting to like you're able to translate that into like a paper, like the page. I think that's maybe somewhat analogous to how some people will those posts on social media, for example, where it's like, well, I was drunk at 3 a.m. and I wrote this and I looked at it and it's like in, incomprehensible garble. I remember one time I saw this post about an architect who got drunk at like 4 a.m. and like drew out plans for a building and he looked at it and they were actually coherent. And so it's interesting to see how like the subconscious kind of jumps out at the witching hour.
most definitely. If I had to honestly reflect on it, it hasn't really been that way for myself. It's been more of just pure randomness, honestly. I guess that's completely what it is in the first place. When it comes to art, though, it seems to be, well, personally, things that just become more abstract, honestly. So,
Yeah, abstract is actually my favorite form of art. I've taken a liking to it ever since the fifth grade, and I was introduced to. Oh, this is the part where I don't remember the artist's name. It looks stupid. um, Actually, no. I'll give you a different example. I was reading a book. I forgot the title of the book too, but it was in the fifth grade, and it was detailing. It was about these two kids who ended up solving a murder using like pentominoes, which of course is those five the Tetris blocks pretty much, and it was so interesting to me how abstract those ideas were, and it's like it's solving a murder by using like an L block, for example. I think that really catalyzed my not yearning, but desire for more abstract things in art. And so you said that you've taken an orchestra here at N67 too, correct?
yep, that has been an interesting experience. I love Mr. Laird. He's a wonderful teacher. The thing is, we start with very complex pieces, and of course, with an NCSSM schedule, it's somewhat difficult to find time to actually practice
Oh
those
yeah.
pieces. So it's been a process of finding something out, learning how to do something correctly, and then 2 or 3 days go by when I've just been doing homework. Most likely physics or calculus.
Oh yeah.
Putting that aside, usually it's by then I've forgotten what I did in the first place, so
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of very high expectations in the sense of, like, especially if you're trying to learn very complex pieces. But from what I've heard from the orchestra, it seems to go pretty well. Like, it's given that all of the kids there are also bogged down by other things, like if it's not physics and calculus, it's like anatomy and physiology and molecular genetics, for example. It's like if you're not doing one thing, you're doing another. Uh, but to be able to balance all of that and then be able to create a honestly beautiful sounding crowd of wood squeaking against wood it's breathtaking, honestly. Of course, that's coming from while I do have a somewhat musical background, I'm not in the orchestra at NCSM, so I don't get to see all of the nitty gritty, which I assume does exist.
most definitely it's well, we have about say 2-ish hours to practice on Tuesdays, which is very helpful. And of course, for the forgetting things, it just ends up being writing stuff down in music pieces. But the thing is, considering how large the orchestra is, if something kind of goes wrong for 1 or 2 people, nobody notices that in a large crowd.
Hmm.
It's more of the technique of just continue playing and everything is fine. So,
Yeah, that's interesting how you can just kind of vanish in the sound.
yeah. I guess another interesting thing when it comes to orchestra as well, with the piece that we're doing, oh, please forgive me, orchestra students, because I'm forgetting the name of the composer right now. I think we are doing something by Beethoven, Second Symphony.
Mm.
But right now, we are also doing that with some of the students who are in the band as well. That's an interesting process because we have a very small amount of students in band. So I guess we're just practicing right now, and we're still in the development stage of that. But if something goes wrong there, it's like, okay, there are 2 trumpets. And
Oh,
trumpets
wow.
are typically a lot louder than violins, so
Right, right. And so, would you say that your experiences with, well, I guess I should first ask is, what is your musical background in the sense of before taking orchestra here?
well, I've been playing violin since 7th grade.
Wow.
It's been pretty nice. Really, I've been so amazed by other students here, though. It's like some of them have been playing since 4th grade and before that. So, really, those students are truly wonderful. You can hear some amazing things from them, honestly. But apart from the violin, I also started picking up ukulele in about, say, 8th grade ish.
Oh, wow. And so, what was like some of the mental jumps that you have to make going from violin, which of course is played with a bow, to a ukulele, which is just 2 hands?
Well, I guess the thing is, it transferred relatively well, considering with the violin, although you're using the bow, there's also this thing called pizzicato, where you're just plucking along the fingers as well, so that transfers relatively well. I guess there's not, well, with strings, I guess you could hear that starting note, those are mostly different, except both the violin and ukulele have an A string, so that makes things slightly easier. And it's just a matter of messing around with the notes and listening to things for a while, and then it eventually makes sense.
Yeah, cool, cool. So, is there, when you took up the ukulele, did you take it to play a specific song, or did you just see it as an interesting instrument?
It was an interesting instrument, and it's kind of weird how I got the ukulele in the first place.
What's the story behind that?
So, during 8th grade semi-formal, they had a raffle,
Tanner.
and I just ended up randomly winning something, and I went up and saw a ukulele. I thought that was the coolest thing other than the pogo stick that they had, but I chose ukulele, so that's how that happened.
That's actually really interesting. Semi-formal, of course, being a dance event here at NCSM, that the dress code is semi-formal. um, so they had a ukulele and a pogo stick, and what else?
Many other things.
Oh,
Just
wow.
those were the first 2 things I noticed, honestly, so.
Um, so, and then like since you won it, you're like, well, might as well learn how to use it, and then it was after that it was history.
Yep. I guess for the first few weeks to months, it was me learning how to play, and also my parents complaining a lot about the fact that I did not sound good. So
Well, I mean, you always have to like come. There's that awkward period in which you don't really understand how it works fully, and then like you just kind of build proficiency, which is true with not only just instruments, but most of any skill, I would presume, right?
most likely, yeah. Well, I don't know why I say most likely, most definitely, but okay. I need to get more sleep tonight, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe a little bit less of the 2 a.m. random ideas.
I've been trying to avoid that. Really, it's like after homework, I just don't want to do anything else. So that's the whole entire explanation of the violin thing. Along with not being allowed to leave a room after 2 a.m. and violin at 2 a.m. for other students would not be that pleasant.
Oh
So,
yeah.
mm.
I can totally understand that. And so I asked the previous question about your musical history to go into how do you feel that seeing as that music and art aren't really all that separate as much as we think they are, how do you feel your musicality I don't know if that's the right word, but I'm going to use it as if it was. How does your musicality affect your art?
Hmm. For the most part, I guess, well, of course, music and arts, they are within the broad range of arts, but I have not really tried to unify the two mostly. It's been an interesting process. I play things on the violin. I don't really try to make up something because that's not always guaranteed to sound well. But of course, not everything is guaranteed to sound well in the first place, and you just gotta try stuff eventually. But it's never something that I've truly explored that much.
Word, word. So, about your art in terms of like the whole abstractness, is there anything specifically that you pull from that's not just random 2 a.m. thoughts? It's like, I'm going to make an abstract art based off of, oh, I don't know, like these couple of rocks over here.
Well, I guess an interesting thing about that has been it's kind of weird, kind of cute. When I was really, really young, I ended up just staring at my dad while he was playing video games for lots of
No, I can definitely relate.
that's had a lot of influence because for some reason when I was younger I did a lot of random steampunk things when I had no clue what steampunk was, then remembered, hey, that came from some video games several years ago.
Oh yeah, Oh, I'm sorry.
Apparently the video game was some type of horror story and I just
Oh wow.
5-year-old me enjoyed that anyway though, so that's wonderful.
Yeah, I can definitely relate. When I was younger, I was about 5 or 7. My dad was like, he doesn't play that many games anymore because he's always busy. But he used to play games like a little bit more when we were younger. We had like this one really tiny TV. It was like a box. It's something straight out of the 90s. A relic now, but it was in like this one alcove of my bedroom actually, and I would always use it for like VSH tapes for, I don't know, Barney and Friends or whatever, like thing that 5 or 7 year olds were into back during 2012. But I remember sometimes at late nights my dad would like sit in front of the television and he would load up this one like just really random ninja like game, and this was my first experience, my first delve into the rating system of video games, because apparently it was not rated R, what is it, rated M for mature, no, it was like one adults only. It was rated adults only. It's like, and they saved that one for the ones that are like either extremely gory or just generally not for 5 to 7 year olds. And so I would remember my dad being a lot bigger than me back then. Um, I would be sat behind him and like I would be like trying to look over and like see what he was playing because of course I was interested. And so I would only see like glimpses of the game, nothing to that could actually like scar me. At least I don't remember. If it did scar me, we'll find out. But I would always remember just like sitting behind my dad silently and just watching. And then eventually my dad would like shift and I'll like sprint back to my room because it's like because you don't want to get caught. But yeah, definitely like those old memories of just watching your parents do things and seeing how that influences things later in life is always interesting.
Yeah. I can relate to that story, but it's kind of funny for myself. we had carpeted floors at the time, so I was small and quiet enough to just kind of sneak in, and he didn't even notice I was there.
Yeah.
Until about, say, when I was 12, and I could just. He'd noticed I was there, and I'd just stand over him and say nothing. And he felt like he was just being watched by the police all the time.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of a wonderful moment in my life. And then he just finally decided to let me play video games instead and not have to deal with a small child just standing over your shoulder and watching you for however long, I guess. So.
Do you still play video games now?
Not as I've been on campus. It's
yeah, definitely. It's hard to.
Yeah.
I've been ever since that experience with my dad. I was playing video games like before then, actually. I think I do have a very large passion for video games. It's one of the things that I take like a lot of interest in. I can talk to it at length. I'm surprised I haven't done a podcast episode on it yet, actually. But I have been able to, ever since I've come here, just be able to squeeze it in every now and then. It's like it takes up a lot of my free time, whatever like spare kind of bits of it I can find. I usually dedicate it to if not playing video games, something related to it, like watching someone play video games, which is another thing that my dad could never understand. I'm talking about stories of my dad. It was really funny though, because how the discussion would usually go, he would be like, well, take one, why are you watching people play video games so you can just play them? And then I would counter with, well, why are you watching people play sports when you can just play them?
I guess that's another argument there. Video games cost money, so...
Well, I mean, sports equipment costs money, right? Yeah. So, yeah, it was always just some viewpoint there. But going back to art, I am profoundly not good at it. I can say I feel that a lot of that has just been because I've never dedicated my mind to it. I'm sure if I actually sat down and focused, I could create something that I would generally be able to appreciate. But my inspiration for art usually comes from the abstract, but due to my background, it's mainly surrounding video games. Every now and then I'll try like a concept for a character, but like it'll never end up good, of course. Like I'll do it and I'll look at him like, I don't like this.
That's an interesting concept in the first place. What is good art in the first anyway?
Oh yeah, what is good art? Because I do remember in the news, this was a couple of years ago, but someone had taken their glasses off at an art museum and put it down in a corner and then just like sat and watched. And eventually people just started like surrounding the pair of glasses as if it was like an art piece. I think there's actually like a lot of extensive research done on like how the definition of art kind of transmorgifies throughout culture. In fact, I think at this point, and this is kind of a hot take, but you know, memes could technically be art. Because like what would you say your definition of art is?
Really? I just say something that humans use to express themselves or something that they give to hold meaning, really. And people will just give meaning to almost anything, honestly, so
yeah,
it could be quite literally anything.
Right, like a meme. I've actually done, for NCSSM, I had to do a research paper in my junior year, and I actually did it on memes. I was very interested in getting into the philosophical discussion of like how memes can be used in art. I do also remember, I can't remember any names today, it's kind of weird, but there was this was like the turn around movement, I guess. People cite this as like, okay, this is when art kind of started becoming weird, fairly quixotic. It was a fiction. Someone had made it was a statue that was a urinal, and it was put like out in one of the most like it was put out of like a very accredited museum, and it was just a urinal, and like it was supposed to be like super serious. And of course, this is right on the back of other movements such as pop art, which did a lot for the, I guess, decentralization of art towards really kind of expensive tastes. Because looking at it historically, art was a very it was a rich hobby thing. Like you had to be pretty well off to be able to find materials for art, like good paintbrushes, good paints, good oils, acrylics, and whatnot. Um, and then even then, art was mainly left to like regalty. Is like there are so many examples of artists doing renditions of famous kings and queens, um, and so that was funneled down by pop art. Pop art was like, hey, we can make art that isn't about just like big wig figures and whatnot. And then we get to the toilet urinal, and then we get to toilet urinal. That's a redundant. And then we get to glasses.
Really just interesting transition, honestly. So very weird. I honestly have to wonder, what meaning do people give to just seeing a urinal? How does that become art?
I think in recent trends, this is like a meme, so I'm about to alienate half of my audience. But it's like how English teachers will always find meaning in something that is like objectively meaningless. Is like an author will write the sky was blue, and an English teacher would be like, well, the sky is meant to represent, and it's, like that's the joke. Is like, well, wow, look at this person being so incredibly uh, over analyzing something that doesn't need to be analyzed. And so I pose a question to you: do you feel that the transition of art has followed the same transition? Well, do you feel that art has transitioned in the same way that music has?
I guess so. Well, it's interesting. Really, when you're talking about music in general, that and art within itself, those are two extremely large things. You're going to see so many different types of music in the first place. I guess, huh, I don't know exactly. I wouldn't say that they've gone down the same path. Well, they kind of have, I guess. When you're thinking of, I guess, back to Beethoven's Second Symphony.
Right.
Something that large and would most likely be heard by wealthy people. Then, as you go back down to the modern day, art is for the people, but then you still do have those people who overanalyze things and try to make meaning out of nothing. But
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see because we have. I guess the most stark example we can make is from Beethoven's Second Symphony to I don't know, the latest Taylor Swift single. Is like obviously these are not the same thing, but they come from the same kind of musical cesspool in the sense of like meter, bar, rhythm. Um, I guess I think I would say that music hasn't followed the same kind of transition of art because while art is like people try to find meaning from no meaning sometimes, and like in fact that's like the whole point. This can be evident in movements like post and postmodernism, but music is kind of like how long can we take the same core fundamentals and like remix it.
I guess you do have a good point with that performance last year where there was somebody who used several chords so many different times to play 40 different songs or something. So
Right. And because like when you look analytically, seeing as that music has like a confined science to it, those notes that are in Beethoven's Second Symphony and are in Taylor Swift's latest single are fundamentally the same. Like they're saying that hasn't changed. Like an eighth note will always be an eighth note. And if you try and change the eighth note, then there's already something that defines that. It's like, oh yeah, that's an extended eighth note. That's a eighth note with a oh boy, musical knowledge. Come to me. It's the one with like it looks like an eye. It's got like an arc and a dot over it. Oh,
a fermata.
Fermata. Yes, thank you. It's like I say that to say that you can't really escape those musical laws. And like if you do, it's not accredited as music anymore. Like people just call it noise. Like if I were to take two pans together and just like start slamming them together with no rhyme or reason, can you really call that music?
I guess you do have a point there, but somebody would probably call that music
Right.
somewhere.
Okay, that's fair. And then That is actually a good point. One thing I didn't take into account is the fact that like different cultures may have different interpretations of those laws, and so like not to say this is for certain. This is purely for metaphorical metaphorical purposes. But if I were to slam those plots together in Russia, for example, it would some people might call that noise. But if I were to do it in Australia, it'd be like, oh yeah, this is obviously an interpretation of some other Australian song.
I guess you do have a good point there. I don't really. I guess when you're thinking about it like that, an easy reference to that in modern day times, or okay, don't say modern day times or whatever. But when you're thinking of the genre of heavy metal, of course, a lot of people would call that random noise. But of course, for a lot of people, that would be music that has a lot of meaning to them. So
Yeah, it's interesting. And so like it's cool to see how that music can kind of impersonate a meaning in a sense, which takes us to our other topic, imposter syndrome. So when you came to me and you said you had wanted to talk about imposter syndrome, does that come from like your own experience with it?
personal experience and of course watching other students as well. It's such an interesting thing, and honestly one of the more stressful things about being here. It's like, okay, for everything that it takes to get into the school in this for the first place, then it's like, okay, you're surrounded by people who are very intelligent, and occasionally just feeling like you don't really belong here, or what are you doing with your life in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. I feel us teenagers are in a very interesting position in our lives where it's like you're constantly seeing like the results of other people's work, and like you're in the middle of working, and so like if all you can see is just like great scores, everyone going to do like great colleges, everyone doing great things with their life, and it's like, well, what are you doing, right? It's like that becomes like the quintessential question is like, well, what am I doing to get those same things? And like if I'm not getting those same things, like does that affect my value as a person?
I guess really that seems very, very similar to what people say a lot about college decisions and how sensitive of a subject that can be on NCSSM's campus. Of course, for some people, I guess I saw this reference a while ago that some people's safety schools may be some people's choices that they really want to go into. And of course, it seems just slightly insulting, but then again, everybody has their own personal preference, and it's just generally a complex topic, in my opinion.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And I feel like that complexity gives way to the fact that the whole like thing behind imposter syndrome is how paradoxical it is, because like you can't really compare your, let's say, college decisions, for example. You can't, it is impossible to compare like the worth of a person by what college they go to. Like I feel like that is ubiquitous, and we all tell ourselves that, but do we really believe it? It's because and I personally, I believe it, because like some people might want to go to a school for completely different reasons, and another person would not want to go to that school. Or and like the same reasons that someone would not want to go to a school is the same reason why someone would want to go to that school. It's like colleges are so incredibly personal in the sense is like, and I say that because my parents, after from everything that I've heard from them and their college experiences, like it's evident that it has left a lasting mark on them. And so like when you're choosing a college, you should choose something that is truly something that you feel you fit into. And it's like I'm gonna go ahead and throw Ivies into here because everyone's already thinking about it. It's like going to an Ivy is like, it's great, it's cool, because there's so many stats, papers, and reports about why going to an Ivy is like what you should be doing with your life, but not everyone's going to fit into that box.
Most definitely. Really, when you're thinking about something like that in the first place, that just kind of circles back to the imposter syndrome thing of seeing, oh, look, this person, look what they're doing. They have gone to NASA. What am I doing with my college experience at this Ivy League school?
Right, exactly. And then from there, you got to ask yourselves, like, do you want to go to NASA? Like, do you really want to go to NASA? It's like, why do you want to go to NASA? Are you going because they went?
Random parental pressure, perhaps?
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a... I can totally see that in the sense is like, if your parents are comparing you to other children, which is a generally scummy thing to do. I feel like that's we can all agree that's not something that we should try and do to other humans is compare them.
Yeah.
Especially your children. It's like, really? Like,
Especially that horrible time when that comes between siblings.
oh
That's
no. Yeah, that
uh,
must be horrible. It's like, because, like, imagine, like, as a sibling, because it puts everyone in a weird situation. Because, like, now the parents are giving you unexpected, well, not unexpected, but giving you almost unattainable expectations because your sibling did something. And it's just like, just, that is literally just because your sibling is a human and they're doing, like, them. Like, let them do them. um, and so, like, that sibling is also, I would imagine that they would also feel somewhat uncomfortable because it's like, well, I'm literally just like, to put this in Gen Z terms, I'm literally just vibing. It's like, um, I don't. There's kind of an unexpected pressure put on them as well to continue that status quo, and then it's on the kid that's being has the expectations put on them. That's like on a more magnified scale. That must be like soul crushing. It's like imagine like you're literally just trying to vibe, and then your parents are like, "No, you're not vibing good." Um, that's a, of course, that could be explained in more professional terms, but I feel I'm getting to the.
yeah, you can understand the point of that. Really, I think I've heard of that several times for people who go to med school. It's like, oh, your parents say you'll become a doctor. Do you have any option? No, you are becoming a doctor. And of course, if you're doing something like that to yourself, the stress within itself is also extremely difficult, and you're just kind of breaking yourself down slowly, it seems like. And of course, doing something in your future you would not want to be doing anyway. What kind of ended up bringing me to that is because it's so very weird for my older brother and I. I guess the thing is, I personally suck at sports. I cannot do anything with that.
Okay.
And I ended up kind of being slightly more nerdy and weird in comparison. But we both have our own paths. He's been doing pretty well and is hoping to go into architectural engineering. So
Oh, word.
he's been doing pretty well with his life so far. And I am still figuring it out, questioning, do I want to go to med school or do I not want to do that with my life? Again, really just back to what am I doing? I don't know anymore.
Yeah. I think one thing that you can take solace in is the fact that not many other people know what they're doing. Of course, like me, I don't know what I'm doing with that sentence. It's interesting to, especially like on the NCSM campus, is like there are some people who like they seem like they have everything figured out, but like they obviously don't. There's no way they could. Because when it comes down to it, they're like 17. When you're 17, I feel we can all agree we don't know everything that there is to know about anything. We just kind of like to pretend we do because it's the most advantageous thing to do at the moment.
Yeah, I guess apart from that, it's also comforting to know what you're doing instead of worrying, hey, I gotta figure out my life sometime soon, I guess. But
Right.
really, I guess for a lot of people, they go into college undecided and they turn out fine, so.
Right, definitely. I remember one time I was sat in a meeting for like a college preparatory thing. And it's I won't say it's trivial, but it was like another kind of run of the mill. Is like someone older than you tells you about how college is supposed to go. And one thing that really stuck out to me was the lady told the crowd that when you go to college, you are likely to change your major at least 5 times. And so compare that now to like a 17-year-old who like doesn't really understand what's going on to someone in college changing their major like 5 times. They obviously don't know what's going on. And so I guess the problem seems really big now, and this is some advice that my mom has given me recently that has really stuck out to me. But she told me like really to focus on things kind of chronologically, in the sense it's like, okay, well, yeah, I have like all these problems now, but like in a year I'm going to be a completely different place doing completely different things, which kind of goes to, I don't know if it's age old adage, but it's a common saying that this too will pass.
Well, it's super interesting when you think about that. at this age, everything seems so very large.
Right, right.
Like, the issue will never seem to pass, but I guess eventually everything does.
I do know one age-old adage, time heals all wounds. There we go. We've hit our quota for age-old adages.
I don't think I could add any more in the first place.
Oh,
I
no,
guess.
that's fine. I didn't even know we had a quota until like a couple seconds ago.
Yep. Not knowing what's going on until the second that it happens. All
Right,
good.
right. It's very abstract.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially like this is my first time experiencing life. When I come back and do this over again, I'll probably do it a lot better. Of course, that's a joke. Give me 1 second. We have some fairly rancorous neighbors, and we're back. If I could get one podcast out without interruptions, it would be so nice. But alas, it's a work in progress. And hopefully, we'll be having a more soundproof room.
Eventually.
Eventually,
Still,
yes.
with the whole entire thing of coming back eventually and realizing what you were supposed to do with life, really, I feel like for all years, all humans will just continue to be confused. We're confused what to do with global warming in the first place. We will stay confused, it seems like. Even though that is slightly morbid.
Definitely. I feel that that like admittance of confusion is something that allows for more holistic and worthy bonds with other people. And it's like if you're honest with someone and tell them like, hey, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing about life, and then they're also honest with you, it's like, hey, I don't know what we're doing about life either, and then like you can end up trying to figure that out together. Trying to figure that out together as friends, as or like even more. But relationships is something we talked about in a previous episode. But yeah, just like this podcast, it's going to improve with time. That's kind of the whole, I guess, goal of life is to, regardless of if you make it into an Ivy League, if you have a 19-figure job, if you have enough kids to rival, what's his name? The dude in China. You know what I'm talking about? The guy who had a lot of kids.
I do not know who you're talking about, but having more than 3 or 5 children sounds terrifying, but...
Okay, well, never mind. I guess we'll wrap that up by saying having a good legacy, leaving a legacy behind. I think that all kind of coalesces down into just trying to consistently improve as a human and using your improvements to augment the lives of others. I think is a pretty good outlook to have surrounding the whole "what am I doing?" question. It's like, I'm doing me. I'm going to get better every day.
I'd have to agree with you there. Really, it was such an interesting experience coming to that lesson in the first place. When I ended up realizing that was probably summer of junior year when I started doing chemistry research. I had taken AP chemistry the the spring before that, and realized I still have no clue what I am doing with this.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal then just became just try to do better every day. And that's what I've tried to apply to science and math, even though that is sometimes difficult.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And why I am not doing exactly as well as I'd like to in calculus.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, I mean, it's whatever. It's I guess kind of. This is again like going back into the whole philosophical side of this. It's very interesting to be able to approach everything with not just optimism, because I feel like optimism might be more of an umbrella term for a lot of things, but mainly gratitude.
Yeah.
And so now speaking about improving the podcast, and now we're in the kind of part where we review or kind of reflect. So do you have any kind of final thoughts or things that you would like to say?
Really, this has been a wonderful experience. I'd probably have to agree about the soundproof room thing because of the
definitely.
random screaming from next door.
I mean, like, Oh, we have one more age-old adage. We're gonna set a new record. Expecting the unexpected. Why, honestly? Out of all of the things that happen, why would you scream in a library room? It's whatever. You can't control what other humans do. You can only control what you do.
Blaming it on the 2 a.m. I am going to do something creative thing and still wake up early.
Yeah, at 2 a.m. I'm going to scream in a library room today. Shout out to the people in the room right next to us. You don't know you're going to be in the podcast unless you end up watching this. Hope you enjoy your little cameo. But in conclusion, I guess, art is a very abstract concept in the sense is like, and art is a pretty good mirror for life.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel that when it comes to drawing things, me for one, not only do I try and pull from things that I've experienced in life, but also try and pull life out and put it into my art. I think this can be seen like more obviously with stuff like nature, for example. Being able to look at a piece of art that is representative of like a orchard or fields of gray or like blue seas, and like being able to put yourself in that painting, I feel is like the most representative of being able to pull life and put it into something. And I think that technique can be used in a lot of other practical uses, like putting your life into something, like truly dedicating yourself to accomplish a common goal. Going back to the other point in terms of imposter syndrome, I think one good, I guess, medication for it is to have a goal, have like something that you plan to accomplish, have something that you would like to do.
Most definitely. And I guess really when looking at something like this, maybe Miss Alter had mentioned it to your class too. Don't remember the philosopher himself, but he hated artists because he had claimed all art is a lie, all artists are liars. Really going back to the imposter syndrome thing, sometimes acting like you know what's English. Acting like you know what's going on sometimes seems to work with stuff. Really, I guess it's unfortunately one of the lessons you end up learning kind of quickly here at Science and Math. Sometimes BSing things works.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. There has been some times where it's just like having confidence in my answer, even if it was the wrong answer, like saw me through.
Yeah.
And it's always surreal when it happens because it's like, someone outside looking in can always say like, wow, this dude just blurted out the wrong answer. But from someone that's like in that environment, it's like, wow, he like had conviction in that, and it's like, let's see how he got to that, and then that ends up helping, that augments the class in itself, because exploring methods to find incorrect answers, because like the method could be right, you just like made like a in the realm of calculus, for example, the answer might be right, but your method was wrong. It's like, or the answer was wrong but your method was right. Being able to pinpoint that and expand on it and be able to rectify, I think, not to like speak for teachers, but I think that's one of like the main goals of teaching, is to not just like drill answers into you, but to teach you how to find answers on your own.
Yeah, and that really is something kind of looks wrong. I guess exploring why this. Really, just going back to that whole entire research thing. Wrong answers or having something come out unexpectedly, that's the thing that leads to other research, I guess. So.
Definitely.
Oh, good, man.
Yeah. And I think that's a good spot to end it. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
This is Daquan from the Quixotic Topic.
This is Leah.
From the Quixotic Topic. Well, my guest, I guess. Well, okay, hold on. Let's redo this. This is Daquan from the Quixotic Topic. I'm joined by
Leah as a guest of the Quixotic Topic.
There we go. Thank you for watching.